She kissed a stranger in the dark and walked into his empire the next morning. Seoul, 11:47 p.m. The Han River breathes beneath a bruised purple sky, and the city hums with the particular kind of electricity that only exists after midnight when the workday has ended, but ambition hasn't. We find Sophie Bennett on the Mapo Bridge walkway, her coat pulled tight around her shoulders, a battered notebook pressed to her chest like armor. She is 26 years old. She is tired in the way only brilliant people who have survived something devastating can be tired, not broken, but worn thin at the edges, like fine paper held too long against the light. She's been in Seoul for 4 months, her French culinary certificate, her James Beard nomination, her name on the shortlist of a Chicago magazine's 30 Under 30 Chefs to Watch. None of it matters here. None of it followed her across the Pacific. What followed her? A lawsuit. A former employer who accused her of stealing his recipes, his intellectual property, when what she had actually done was outwork him, outshine him, and refuse to credit him for techniques she had developed herself. The case was dismissed, but the damage was not. Seoul was supposed to be a fresh start, a culinary residency at a small restaurant in Itaewon that had since shuttered, a studio apartment she can barely afford. And tomorrow morning, an interview at the most prestigious luxury hotel restaurant in the entire country. Grandeur Seoul, 68th floor, Michelin 2-star. The kind of place that doesn't call you back unless you are genuinely extraordinary. Sophie had been genuinely extraordinary her entire life. She was still learning how to stop apologizing for it. She leans against the railing, notebook open, sketching a dish in the dark. Her handwriting is fast, decisive, a braised short rib interpretation, Korean gochujang meeting Louisiana technique, 2 worlds on a single plate. She doesn't hear him approach. He comes from the east side of the bridge. Kang Min-soo is 34 years old, and in the dark he looks like a man who has forgotten how to be anything other than composed. Charcoal coat, no tie. The top button of his dress shirt undone, which, for him, is practically undress. He walks like a man who owns the ground beneath him without having to think about it. He is not walking for pleasure. He is walking because his driver knows that after the worst meetings, Min-soo needs 30 minutes of open air before he can think clearly again. The board has been difficult tonight. The numbers are good, the numbers are always good, but the board has opinions that go beyond numbers, and Min-soo has very little patience for opinions that dress themselves up as strategy. He would normally have his phone out. Tonight, he left it in the car. He notices her before she notices him. Not because she's beautiful, though she is cheekbones sharp enough to catch the bridge's ambient light, natural hair gathered back with a pencil, the kind of dark skin that makes evening light look like it was designed specifically for her. He notices her because she is drawing in a notebook in near total darkness, and she looks completely unbothered by this. He stops. She looks up. For 3 seconds, neither of them speaks. There is something disarming about being seen by a stranger in a city where you are invisible. Sophie feels it a small, involuntary loosening in her chest. He's Korean, well-dressed, clearly successful by the quiet confidence in how he holds his own space. But he's not looking at her the way men sometimes look at her with assessment, or worse, with the particular curiosity that reduces her to a demographic. He's just looking, present, unhurried. "That's not safe," he says, in English. His accent is precise, slightly formal, the English of someone who learned it academically and then refined it through years of international business. Drawing in the dark. "I have good eyes," Sophie says, or a very familiar subject. She glances down at her notebook, back up at him. "You want to see?" It surprises him. She can tell by the slight shift in his expression, not quite a smile, but the preparation for one. He steps closer, not crowding, just close enough to look. He studies the sketch, the plating diagram, the notations in the margin reduction times, acid balance, texture contrast. "This is a dish," he says. "Working title, home, but not." He looks at her then. Really looks. "You're a chef. Trying to be. Here, anyway." Something in his expression shifts a careful neutrality replacing the openness, and she files that away instinctively. the way chefs file flavor memories, because later she will understand what it meant. "Where are you from?" he asks. Then, immediately, "You don't have to answer that." "Chicago," she says. "You?" He seems to consider this. "Here," he says simply. "Born in Seoul?" "Built in Seoul." She looks at him for a long moment, and then she does something she hasn't done in 4 months in this city. She laughs. It's short, startled, genuine, the kind of laugh that escapes before you can evaluate whether to give it. His expression opens fully then. Not a smile exactly. Something quieter and more dangerous. Appreciation. They stand on the bridge for another hour. She doesn't know, and will not know until morning, that his name is Kang Min-soo. That he is the founder and CEO of Kang Group Hospitality, which owns, among its portfolio, 4 luxury hotels, 7 fine dining restaurants across Asia, a culinary academy in Busan, and the establishment where she has an interview in 11 hours. He doesn't tell her, not to deceive, but because on this bridge, in this particular darkness, he is simply a man who walked east when he needed to breathe, and she is simply a woman who draws dishes in the dark. And that is clean and uncomplicated in a way that very little in his life currently is. They talk about food, about the particular grief of a dish that almost works, about Seoul at night, about the way the Han River smells different in autumn, earthier, slower. At 1:15 a.m., she says she has to go. She has an early morning. "I hope it goes well," he says. "Thank you." She pauses, tilts her head. "I don't know your name." "Min-soo," he says. "Sophie," she says. She offers her hand. He takes it. And here's where the story pivots, because shaking hands with a stranger at 1 a.m. on a bridge, while Seoul hums beneath you and the autumn river exhales, is not a standard transaction. And they both feel it. The warmth of the contact, the slight pause before release. "Good luck tomorrow, Sophie," he says. She walks 2 steps. Then she stops. She doesn't know why she does it. She'll ask herself that question for weeks. Maybe it's 4 months of loneliness. Maybe it's the particular ache of talking to someone who listened without requiring anything from her. Maybe it's simply that the city is beautiful, and she is alive and standing on a bridge with a stranger who looked at her notebook and said this is a dish, like it was the most natural conclusion in the world. She turns back, and she kisses him, one hand against his chest, barely any space between them. His hands don't move for 1 full second, the shock of it, the restraint of it, and then one rises to her jaw, the lightest possible contact, a question more than a claim. The kiss is brief. It is not innocent. It carries in it the full weight of 2 people who are both more alone than they intended to be, and it tastes like the autumn air, and something that hasn't happened yet. She steps back first. He lets her. "Okay," she says softly, half to him, half to herself. She walks away without looking back, because she is Sophie Bennett, and she knows how to leave. He watches her go. He stands on the bridge for a long time after that. Sophie is up at 6. She presses her chef's whites. They are impeccable. She has ironed out every hesitation, every doubt, every memory of the lawsuit and the closed restaurant, and the 4 months of near invisibility. She stands in front of her apartment's small mirror and says to herself, quietly and clearly, "You are the most skilled person in that room. Walk like it." She takes the subway to Uido. Grandeur Seoul rises above its neighbors like a declaration, 68 floors of glass and steel, and the particular architectural grammar that says money as a first language. The lobby is a curated silence, marble and light, everything considered, everything chosen. Sophie crosses the threshold. At the reception desk, she gives her name. The woman types it, smiles. "Chef Bennett, you'll be escorted to the 68th floor kitchen. The general manager, Mr. Park, will see you first, and then..." The woman pauses almost imperceptibly. "The owner has requested to sit in on the tasting evaluation." Sophie nods. This is unusual, but not alarming. She has cooked for harder rooms. The elevator ascends. The 68th floor kitchen is breathtaking equipment she has only seen in international publications, a prep space designed like a stage. The light from the floor-to-ceiling windows pours across the stainless steel surfaces like something intentional, like the entire room is mid-performance. Mr. Park 50 S. Efficient, kind-eyed, the kind of manager who has survived years of difficult geniuses, greets her. They review the format. She will prepare one dish using a provided protein and whatever she selects from the pantry. 30 minutes. She will plate. He will evaluate. The owner's participation is, he notes, not standard. He does not explain it. Sophie ties on her apron. She moves to the pantry and begins her selection with the precision of a woman who has been preparing for this moment for 4 months, and in some ways, for her entire life. She does not hear the elevator. She does not hear the footsteps. She does hear the room change a subtle shift in atmospheric pressure, the way a kitchen quiets when authority enters, and she turns. Kang Min-soo stands in the kitchen doorway. Charcoal suit today, tie, every button closed. He sees her in the same moment she sees him. The silence that follows is exactly 3 seconds long. Sophie counts them. His expression moves through something recognition, surprise, and then, swiftly, a controlled settling, like a window going opaque. He is, she will learn, extraordinary at this. The composure costs him something. She can see it in the slight tension in his jaw. Her own face, she is proud to note, does not betray her. Not the shock, not the heat rising up the back of her neck, not the memory of his hand against her jaw on a dark bridge 12 hours ago. Mr. Park introduces them. Chef Sophie Bennett from Chicago. Chef Bennett, this is Kang Min-soo, the founder and owner of Kang Group Hospitality. Mr. Kang, Sophie says. Her voice is level. Her hand is steady when she extends it. His eyes hold something complicated. He takes her hand. Chef Bennett, he says. I've reviewed your portfolio. Then you know what I can do, she says. Mr. Park blinks. Min-soo Mr. Kang almost smiles. Then I look forward to watching you do it, he says. He moves to the evaluation table without another word. Sophie turns back to her station. Her hands are steady. Her heart is not. She cooks like she breathes with total commitment and zero apology. Braised short rib. The dish from the notebook. Korean technique marrying Southern American soul. Gochujang lacquer over Louisiana spiced braising liquid. Served over a scallion cream with pickled daikon roses, and a reduction so deep it looks like garnet and tastes like memory. She plates with the precision of surgery and the intention of poetry. The entire time, she feels him watching. Not watching her the way an employer watches a candidate. Watching her the way a person watches someone who surprises them with a focused, quiet attention that costs him restraint to maintain. She carries the plate to the evaluation table herself. She does not explain it. She doesn't need to. Mr. Park eats first. His expression completes a full journey, polite interest to genuine surprise, to something approaching reverence. He sets down his fork. Min-soo cuts a piece. He eats slowly. His face gives nothing away, which Sophie has already learned is its own kind of information. Then he looks at her. You trained in France, he says. Yes, but this dish is not French. No, she says. It's mine. Something moves behind his eyes. I have one question, he says. Go ahead. Why Seoul? She considers lying. She considers the careful, curated answer she has prepared for this exact question. She looks at him at the composed, impeccable executive who held her jaw on a bridge last night like she was something worth being careful with, and she tells him the truth instead. Because I needed somewhere that didn't already know my name. The room is quiet. And do you intend to change that? He asks. Yes, she says. Slowly. The right way. He nods once. Looks at Mr. Park. Offer her the position, he says. He stands. Adjusts his cuff. Looks at her one final time, and there it is. Just for a fraction of a second. The private Min-soo from the bridge. Before the boardroom composure seals over it. Welcome to Grandeur Seoul, Chef Bennett, he says. He leaves. Sophie stands in the kitchen of the most prestigious restaurant in South Korea, in her impeccably pressed whites, and breathes. Then she picks up her knife and begins to clean her station, because she has work to do. The conversation happens the next morning, 7:15 a.m. The kitchen is not yet staffed. Sophie arrives early because she always arrives early. She is at the cold storage inventory when she hears his footsteps. She recognizes the rhythm of them already, which is information she refuses to examine. Chef Bennett. She turns. He is not in a suit today, or rather, he is in a suit, but it's Friday, and the jacket is missing. Sleeves rolled to the forearm. He looks like a man who worked last night and didn't stop. Mr. Kang. He steps into the kitchen. The space is large and empty, and the morning light is still gray through the windows. They are very aware of being alone. I want to address what happened, he says. Nothing happened, Sophie says. Sophie. The sound of her first name in his mouth, without the professional prefix, is a small detonation. She absorbs it. I kissed a stranger on a bridge, she says clearly. It was impulsive, and it won't happen again. And it was before I had any professional relationship with you. I'd like to keep it there in the before. He looks at her for a long moment. That's fair, he says. I need this job, she says. Not apologetically, factually. My visa, my finances, she stops. Starts again. I didn't come to Seoul to be someone's complication. You're not a complication, he says. And the quiet conviction of it is somehow worse than if he'd argued. Mr. Kang, you're right, he says. You're right about the professional line. I will honor it. He meets her eyes. But I want you to know that hiring you had nothing to do with last night. I reviewed your work 2 weeks ago. I requested the evaluation personally. Mr. Park will confirm this. She studies him. I believe you, she says. That doesn't make it less complicated. No, he agrees. It doesn't, he pauses. But your work is extraordinary. And Grander Seoul is better for having you in it. That is a fact I intend to stand behind. She nods once. Professional, she says. Professional, he confirms. He turns to leave. At the kitchen door, he stops. The dish you made, he says without turning. Home, but not. A pause. I understood it. He leaves. Sophie faces the cold storage. She gives herself 10 seconds. Then she gets to work. 2 weeks pass. They are the most professionally fraught 2 weeks of Sophie's career, which is impressive given that her career has included a lawsuit. The kitchen staff at Grander Seoul is a hierarchy as precise as a military structure, and Sophie enters it as an outsider, foreign, black, female, and newly installed with visible owner favor, which is the particular combination guaranteed to generate maximum friction. Chef Hong, 40S, technically exceptional. Personally aggrieved, the second in command who had expected to become head chef, and instead found himself receiving a foreign newcomer, as his equal makes his feelings known, through the language of kitchen politics. Slightly wrong temperature settings, supply deliveries rerouted, the particular cruelty of publicly asking if she's familiar with ingredients she has been working with for 10 years. Sophie does not take the bait. She arrives first. She leaves last. Her mise en place is architectural. She teaches quietly when a junior cook struggles with a sauce reduction. She demonstrates rather than instructs, beside them, hands in, without hierarchy. Within the first week, 3 of the junior staff are subtly, wordlessly on her side. Min-soo observes this. He is in the kitchen more than is typical for a CEO. She suspects this is deliberate, though she cannot prove it. He does not speak to her more than necessary. He does not single her out. But she is acutely aware of him, his position in the room, his attention, the particular way he holds himself near her that is different from how he holds himself near anyone else. More careful, more still. She is equally aware that she is always more aware of where he is. This is problematic. On a Wednesday, during the lunch service, there is a moment. She is reaching for a sauté pan on the upper rack. She is not short, but it is high and awkward, and she is mid-motion when Min-soo appears beside her and takes it down from the rack and hands it to her, his fingers brushing her wrist in the exchange. He looks at her. She looks at him. The pan is warm from the rack. His fingertips are cooler. "Thank you," she says. "Of course," he says. They return to their respective tasks. But Chef Hong has seen it. and 2 of the servers have seen it. And this is the first thread in the unraveling. By week 3, the rumors are specific. They reach Sophie through Soyeon, 29, pastry chef, direct as a knife. The first person in the kitchen who offered actual friendship, who delivers them over staff meal with the practiced neutrality of a woman who has survived kitchens long enough to know that gossip is a weather system. You don't stop it, you navigate it. They're saying he hired you because of a personal relationship, Soyeon says. They're wrong, Sophie says. I know that. Do you want to know what else they're saying? No, Sophie says. Then, yes. That you're a diversity hire, that the 2-star rating will suffer, that you won't last 6 months. Sophie eats her rice. And what do you think? She asks. Soyeon looks at her across the table. I think you made the most technically precise pâte feuilletée I've ever seen from someone who trained in savory. I think Chef Hong is afraid of you. And I think Mr. Kang has not looked at anyone in this building the way he looks at you, which is either going to destroy you or be the most interesting story this restaurant has ever had. I'm not a story, Sophie says. No, Soyeon agrees. You're a chef, but other people don't see the line. That afternoon, Sophie requests a private meeting with Mr. Park. I want my evaluation metrics documented, she says. Every service. I want a paper trail that has nothing to do with personal relationships and everything to do with performance. Mr. Park looks at her with quiet respect. I'll have it arranged, he says. It happens on a Friday. The restaurant is doing a preview service for a table of investors, the kind of dinner that functions as a performance review for every dish, every presentation, every choice. Min-soo is present at the investors' table. His presence is noted. Sophie's amuse-bouche goes out. Then her first course. The reactions are what she expects: careful pleasure, the kind that money teaches people to contain. But between the first and second courses, one of the investors, speaking in Korean and clearly not expecting to be understood, makes a remark. Sophie catches only fragments. Her language acquisition is strong but still selective under pressure, but she catches enough. Something about the outside hire, something about American as a synonym for lesser. Before she can process it, Chef Hong translates it helpfully into English for her. For everyone. In the kitchen doorway, his voice carrying to the pass. He says the technique is impressive, but the sensibility is too foreign. I heard him, Sophie says. Her voice is controlled. Her face is controlled. Her hands, gripping the pass, are controlled. Min-soo is on his feet. He does not raise his voice. That is the thing Min-soo raised to full power does not need volume. He speaks to the investor with the precise, courteous finality of a man who will not revisit this point. The room is too distant for Sophie to catch every word, but she catches the shape of it. She catches the moment the investor's expression changes. She catches Min-soo's hand gesture, a single, definitive cut that ends the exchange. He turns to the pass. He looks at Sophie. Send out the second course, he says. His voice is normal. His eyes are not. She sends out the second course. It receives a standing moment, not applause, which is not done, but the particular silence of people who have stopped performing enjoyment because actual enjoyment has replaced it. After service, Chef Hong does not look at her. After service, Min-soo stops at the pass. You didn't need that, he says quietly, just to her. For the record, what I said, it wasn't rescue. It was correction. There's a difference, Sophie says. Yes, he says. You were never the one who needed defending. He was the one who needed correcting. She holds his gaze. Thank you, she says. Don't thank me for accuracy, he says. He walks away. Soyeon appears at her elbow. I told you, she says. Most interesting story this restaurant has ever had. We're colleagues, Sophie says. Says Soyeon. The board meets on the last Thursday of every month. Sophie doesn't attend these meetings, of course, but she feels their aftershocks. The Thursday meeting in week 4 produces a particular kind of aftermath. Min-soo is in the building until after midnight, Sophie knows, because she is still in the kitchen at 11, testing a new menu proposal, and she sees his office light on the floor above the restaurant, steady as a held breath. The next morning, Mr. Park informs her, with diplomatic care, that the board has requested a second external review of the kitchen's direction. Meaning me, she says. Meaning the recent hires and menu changes, he says. Meaning me, she says again. He doesn't contradict her. The review is routine, he says, and she respects him too much to call this what it is. When? 2 weeks. She nods. Then I have 2 weeks to make it impossible for them to reach the wrong conclusion, she says. She returns to her kitchen. She does not see the text that Min-soo sends to Mr. Park 20 minutes later. She does not see Mr. Park's response. She does not know that Min-soo has already, in the meeting she wasn't present for, said to his board, in the language of power that they understand, she stays. The discussion is closed. And then watch them find every possible way to continue the discussion anyway. It is quiet. The restaurant has been closed for 2 hours. The kitchen staff has gone home. The building hums with the particular nighttime frequency of a place that is resting between performances. Sophie is at her station, a glass of water beside her, her notebook open, working through the review menu. She has been here for 14 hours. She doesn't feel it the way she probably should, because the work absorbs her completely when she allows it to. She hears the elevator. She knows the footsteps. Min-soo appears in the kitchen doorway. No jacket, tie loosened. He looks, for the first time since she has known him in this building, tired. Not defeated. Min-soo does not do defeated, but worn at the edges. Like someone has been pressing against the walls of his composure for several hours, and the walls have held, but it costs something. He sees her. You're still here, he says. Menu review, she says. He crosses the kitchen not to her, but to the counter opposite her station, and he leans against it and looks at her work the way he looked at her notebook on the bridge, with genuine interest. With the careful attention of someone who values what they're looking at. Show me, he says. She hesitates. Then, she turns the notebook toward him. He crosses to her side of the station. They stand side by side in the quiet kitchen. The overhead lights dim to the cleaning standard, the city visible through the windows 68 floors below, and he reads her menu proposal. He asks questions, technical ones, about sourcing, about timing, about the architecture of a tasting menu that builds, rather than plateaus. His questions are good. His understanding is deep. She forgets, temporarily, to be guarded. She talks the way she talks, when she loves what she's doing. Which is to say, completely, passionately, with her hands moving and her voice dropping into that register that her culinary school professors used to call her kitchen frequency. Low, focused, alive. At some point, she realizes he has stopped asking questions. He is just watching her. The space between them, which began at a professional arm's length, has collapsed somewhere in the last 20 minutes to something considerably more intimate. He is very close. He smells like cedar and cold air, and something faint beneath that, something warmer that she has been trying not to identify. Sophie, he says, her name in his mouth. Again. Don't, she says, quietly, not harshly. I haven't said anything, he says. You were about to. A pause. Yes, he says, I was. She closes her notebook. The review is in 11 days, she says. I can't. She stops. Starts more carefully. I have worked too hard for this. I have survived too much for this. And I need you to be my employer for the next 11 days. With no complications, he says. Yes. He is quiet for a long time. After 11 days? He asks. She looks at him. Ask me then, she says. He nods. Once. The nod of a man who respects the terms of a negotiation he didn't design but recognizes as fair. He picks up his jacket from the counter. The menu is exceptional, he says. The board won't be able to argue otherwise. I know, she says. Good night, Chef Bennett. Good night, Mr. Kang. He leaves. The kitchen holds the warmth of where he stood. Sophie opens her notebook again. Her handwriting, for the next 20 minutes, is slightly less precise than usual. 9 days into the 11. Sophie is in the restaurant's private dining room for a setup review when her phone begins receiving notifications. She ignores the first 3. The 4th comes from Soyeon. Open this. She opens it. It is an image, taken clearly through the kitchen window on a long lens, the kind of shot that requires planning, positioning, intent. The timestamp reads 11 p.m., 9 days ago. The kitchen, dimmed to cleaning light, 2 figures. She and Minsu, side by side at her station. From this angle, in this light, with no sound to provide context, no questions about menu design, no professional conversation, it looks like exactly what she was afraid of. The caption, on the gossip account that has shared it, is in Korean. Soyeon translates in the next message. Korean hotel mogul's real reason for the controversial American hire? Sophie sits down. Her hands are very still. She thinks about her visa, her finances, her reputation, rebuilt stone by stone from the rubble of the lawsuit, the junior kitchen staff who have started to trust her, the menu proposal that is the best work she has done in her career, the review in 2 days. She thinks about the way he said, "Ask me then," like there was a then, like there was a future tense waiting. She puts her phone away. She finishes the setup review. She requests a meeting with Mr. Park. "I think," she says, when she sits across from him, "that I should tender my resignation effective after the external review." Mr. Park looks at her. "Chef Bennett, the photograph is out," she says. "It will reach the board before morning. And I will not be the reason this restaurant loses credibility, or the reason he loses control of a board that is already looking for justification to override him. He will not accept your resignation," Mr. Park says. "He may not have a choice." Mr. Park is quiet for a moment. Then, quietly, he says, "He knew about the photograph 30 minutes ago. I can tell you what he said if you'd like." Sophie meets his eyes. "Tell me," she says. He said, "Tell the board I'll be making a statement. And tell Chef Bennett nothing changes." The review proceeds as scheduled. The room is very still. "Nothing changes," Sophie repeats. Those were his exact words. She stands. She folds her resignation letter. She puts it in her jacket pocket. And she walks out of Mr. Park's office with the letter still undelivered, because she has not yet decided if she is brave enough or foolish enough to let this play out. Okay, beloved, I need a second. If you are watching this from your bed at midnight with your heart racing, I see you. Drop where you're watching from in the comments because I want to know if you're riding this wave with me. If this story has you in your feelings, please hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a chapter of Black Queen and Korean Boss. Now she's got the letter in her pocket. He knows about the photograph. The board is circling, and the review is in 2 days. Do you think she walks, or does she stay and fight? Let me know in the comments. And don't go anywhere because part 1 isn't over. The board does not wait for morning. At 9 p.m., Sophie's phone rings. Unknown number. She answers. A voice she doesn't recognize, cool, female, corporate, speaks in accented English. "Chef Bennett, my name is Director Shin. I am the chair of the Kang Group Hospitality Board of Directors. I would like to meet with you tomorrow morning, before the external review, before Mr. Kang arrives." Sophie is standing at the window of her apartment, the city spread below her, the Han River just visible in the distance. "Why?" she says. "Because," Director Shin says, "there is a way to handle this that protects everyone, including you." A pause. "Or," Director Shin continues, "Mr. Kang will make a public statement tomorrow that will turn this from a rumor into a confirmed story. And the consequences of that will fall on you far more heavily than on him." Sophie is quiet. "Are you threatening me?" she asks. "I'm offering you clarity," Director Shin says. "He's protected. You are not. Think about your visa, your career here, whether you want to be a story or a chef." The line goes quiet. Sophie's hand tightens on the phone. Her resignation letter is on her kitchen table. Across the city, a light is on in the 68th floor of Grandeur Seoul. She cannot see it from here. She knows it's there. "I'll think about it," she says. "Don't take too long," says Director Shin. The call ends. Sophie stands at the window. The city breathes. She picks up her phone. She calls the one person she has not called in this entire situation, the one person who deserves to know what has just been said. The call connects on the second ring. Sophie, says Min-soo. The board called me, she says. Silence. Tell me everything, he says. And his voice, in this moment, has dropped the professional register entirely. This is not the CEO. This is not Mr. Kang. This is the man on the bridge, she tells him. The silence that follows is the kind that precedes something irrevocable. Don't meet with her, he says. Min-soo, don't meet with her. His voice is controlled but barely. I need you to trust me for the next 12 hours. Can you do that? She closes her eyes. The city, the bridge, home, but not. Ask me then. 12 hours, she says. Yes, and then what? A pause that contains several things, a decision, a commitment, and the particular weight of a man who has chosen and knows it completely. And then I'm done being quiet about it, he says.